Welcome to the Ear for Fear podcast, the horror movie podcast that boils and ghouls and dead alike are screaming for. Don't be afraid to listen as Rick and the Creeps bore their way into your brains, slither down onto your arteries, into your still beating hearts.
Hi, welcome to the Ear for Fear podcast. This is the podcast that talks about scary movies or movies trying to be scary. I'm Rick, and today we're joined by Jake Poindexter's back in the house. How you doing, man?
Hey, what's shaking, creeps?
Him and I today are going to be talking about 1982's The Thing, directed by John Carpenter. Let's do a quick synopsis before we jump into this thing. An American research team in Antarctica is hunted by a shape-shifting alien that assumes the appearance of its victims.
Hello? Is anyone out there? Is anyone out there? Please, we need help.
All right, man. So, The Thing.
The Thing.
Who recommended this? Did I or did you? I think we were trying to figure out a movie, what we were
Yeah,
allowed to
we were
do.
trying to figure it out. And I think when you said The Thing, and I'm like, you haven't done The Thing yet?
Yeah,
Like,
we haven't done The Thing.
This is
Yeah.
probably one of my top 5 horror movies of all time.
Yeah, and so it seemed fitting. It's look, it's John Carpenter, my favorite director. I hadn't seen it in a bit. I've seen it several times over the years. I hadn't seen it in a bit, and then I rewatched it for the episode, and damn, like it's so good. Like music is good. The tone of it, the whole like isolation and
Yes.
paranoia, and it's just. And what's funny is that to me, I'm watching this going, isolation, paranoia, what does that sound like? Oh, it sounds like right now, with
Yeah,
everything that's going
absolutely.
on. Right. And so, and not to mention, I mean, the practical effects we'll talk about,
Yes.
but damn, dude, I think Rob Bottin did the practical effects on
He
this.
did.
And he was like a student of Rick Baker. I think
I'm not sure. I know he was young. I know he was in his early 20s when he did this
22, I
movie.
think,
Yeah.
when he did this one. He had, I think the story is Rick Baker was like his mentor, and I think he went on kind of like on his own, maybe for The Howling, which
I know he had done The Howling before, right?
which with me at least, I'm partial to The Howling versus American Werewolf in London, because I know Rick Baker did the effects on that. I love the werewolf look in The Howling, my favorite. And then, to do that I think a Howling was what? Is that 80, 81?
I'm not sure. It's
81
been
maybe.
a while since I've looked at The Howling.
So you're 20, 21 years old to tackle
Yeah.
this, and then 22 with The Thing, which honestly, if anyone's out there who thinks there are better practical effects than what's in The Thing, then let me know, because I would argue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are amazing. And that's the thing about any movie from back in the 80s is, does it hold up? We did Hellraiser before. Do those
Yeah.
effects hold up? Some of them do. A lot of them don't.
Yes.
But the practical effects in this movie are unsettling. It's when you are seeing something that's actually on the screen versus something that's, computer generated. There's just, it hits your stomach. It gets you in the gut, like the juices and the red and the blood and all the stuff squirting off of this thing.
Uh-huh.
A lot of these, a lot of the thing as it's morphing into something else, it looks a little silly, but you still have that really visceral reaction because you know that thing actually exists. That thing is in the world and the people are reacting to it.
Yeah, exactly. When watching this going, I'm like, I get into the head like, well, how did they do that? How was that effect done? Like the whole head into a spider. Dude, that still blows me away. I don't know how they did that. I'm sure there's probably some documentary or some special edition footage somewhere that shows how it was done. But damn. I mean, that's phenomenal. Dude, a head that detaches and it turns into a spider and walks away.
And very recently, an homage to that was done in the recent It movie that came out. You know, I think it was chapter 2, which kind of sucked actually. But
I wasn't a big fan.
Kind of sucked.
It did suck, right?
It had some tone problems. Like they were trying to be funny in certain places, and it just that the second one didn't work. But
it didn't work for me. Like one was fantastic,
wonderful.
And I was talking with Donovan, I think, about this about a week or so ago. Was when you try to, so you take like a cast of kids and then you try to go forward 20 years or whatever it was, and you have to find an actor to play them. Dude, I felt they missed on a lot of them, personally.
That's weird because now we're talking about a completely different movie now, but I thought that they actually, Jessica Chastain maybe doesn't look exactly like Beverly, the kid did, but whoever played Eddie, was it?
I'm trying to remember who played who.
I'm looking at those adults and I'm like, I actually thought that those casting choices were fantastic. I didn't care so much for James McAvoy as Bill. But the
Bill
side
Hader
guys,
was decent. I like Bill Hader.
Bill Hader was fantastic.
Yeah,
I thought he did a great job, and that's where a lot of the comedy probably came from.
Yeah, it's hard with me because I've seen movies try to do that, and it always never seems to work for me, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because I like more of the kid aspect, because to me it's scarier when you're haunting or whatever a kid versus an adult.
Exactly.
It has a different feel for me. And I think it was boring for me. It's okay. It's whatever.
You're right. I mean, the second one I didn't particularly like. The first one I loved.
It's great.
I thought everything, the Pennywise, but we can talk about that one
we can talk about it another time. So the thing here, so this was based off of a short story called Who Goes There?
Yes.
And
I forget the author, and I meant to read the book too, and I never got around to it.
I think it was, I forget the author's name as well, but I think they were like maybe a big sci-fi writer for the time. And then it was adapted in 1951, called The Thing from Another World. From what I hear, that adaptation was very different than the story. So when John Carpenter, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I think Tobe Hooper was supposed to direct The Thing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think he had started developing the movie and then left, and then John Carpenter took over. So but from what I hear is that his adaptation was a lot closer to the story than that 1951 movie. And people,
that's what I heard too.
What I don't understand is, and this is what I don't get with people, is I heard people hated this movie.
That's a huge thing that we should be talking about, is how much this movie bombed. And that's one thing that there are so many different reasons and things to talk about, is why this movie bombed when it came out. I read somewhere that one of the reviews called it instant trash or something like that. I read that
too. Yeah.
And how people were leaving the theater. It just came out, and so much of it, context is so much of a part of it. Like what was going on in the world in 1982 when this movie came out. I think if this movie came out in 76 or 75, it would have immediately been one of the great horror movies of all time. It just came out, 2 weeks after E.T. was released?
Yeah. And I think it came out the same day as Blade Runner. So you're fighting.
Another one. Yeah. Another one that failed when it came out too.
It did. Yeah. And so you're fighting. I think if people got so taken back by the E.T. story and were consumed by E.T. and then The Thing comes out, and I don't know, did they think it was going to be on the same lines? Or, I mean, because E.T.'s a family, that's kind of a family movie, right?
Absolutely.
Thing is so not it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Like, I guess for the time,
it's got to be the time. I mean, what was going on in 1982? We were watching the AIDS epidemic begin. So if you're watching a movie that's about, an infection in a way, when at the same time, like what's going on in the world is there's this new infection that they're trying to figure out. Nobody knows who's got it. You don't know if you can get it from handshakes. You don't know if you can get it from kissing. You don't know exactly how it can be. And maybe it was just hitting a little too close to home.
It could have been, man. Because I mean, back in 82, you don't know who has AIDS unless you do some sort of some sort of blood test, right?
Yeah.
Which
and
is
they were just developing the blood test too. So
Exactly.
they didn't know, it was right at the beginning of it.
which is fitting, like if you think about it. And I'm sure John Carpenter, I don't think there was any message here. I'm sure he wasn't thinking of this, but if you do think about it, like with the Thing, in order to figure out who was the Thing, who was a copy or an imitation of themselves, when Kurt Russell or McCready's doing that test, the blood test, and then not knowing who has it, which was the thing in the 80s with AIDS. It's like, you didn't know who had it.
Yeah.
You couldn't tell who had it.
I don't know how much that really came into play for people. Like right now we're probably just throwing spitballs at a wall trying to figure out why did this movie not, succeed when it came out? Because this movie is pretty universally loved now by horror fans.
It is.
It's everybody I know that loves horror movies. It's in their top 5, at least their top 10.
It is. I never anyone say that I've had conversations with, whether it's in person or on Instagram or whatever in the horror community. No one has ever said one bad thing about the Thing.
Yeah.
I've just never heard it. So it blows me away that something, it's just like over time it became like this huge hit, like this cult, this cult movie. And I just, it's just surprising, man. I mean,
it's got it's got a tight, very tight, no fat on the story whatsoever. There's no larger implications for, where did the aliens come from? What's the plan? What are they doing next? It's just a remote location. The people that are involved are in there. You meet the characters. It's such a nice, tight story. And that's something I really appreciate in a film, is that it doesn't have to worry about what's going on in the periph. It's here we are. These are our characters. These are the people involved.
Yeah.
And
it didn't take long.
It's a great movie.
The thing is with some movies, it's like they take forever to get to it. And it's okay in certain movies. I'm fine with that exposition.
They don't have to build a world.
You don't. This was immediate, man. Yeah. I mean, literally, we get and by the way, spoilers, everyone, if you haven't watched the Thing, maybe, I guess, turn it off, check it out and come back, I
want to meet the guy who's watching, who's listening to podcasts or watching videos about a movie that hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, you have no plans of seeing it. You're just watching YouTube videos so that you can tell your friends you saw it.
I know, right? And more than likely, they're talking about like the prequel that came out like 10 years ago or something. Oh yeah, totally.
So, what'd you think of that?
Yeah, I have to give that another watch.
So do I.
I saw it during a tattoo session. So when I would go get my many sittings for my sleeves, we would always, my tattoo artist is a huge horror fan, so we hit it off immediately. We'd always watch movies while I'm there because I'd be there for 10 hours.
Yeah, nice.
And that was on, but you're not, you're getting needles and it's just not.
Yeah.
I want to revisit it.
Like, one thing I will say about that one, which it was a prequel, right?
Yeah, it was a prequel.
Is that they did a better job in that film of giving you the idea that the one criticism I would have of John Carpenter's is that when you see the way that the Thing moves as it's, changing and doing things, it doesn't seem like a terribly hard thing to be able to run away from. So
True. Yeah,
it moves slow and awkward. And so one compliment I would give the CGI is that they did a better job of showing you in that one of how difficult it would be to get away from it. So it looks creepier that it's changing, and it's changing fast and crawling toward a character and taking them in that way. Whereas it kind of feels like in this one that you could run away. Now, that said, where are you going to run to? You're in Antarctica. That's
the thing with this movie, right? It's almost like from the start of the movie, you get this feeling of just dread, like no one's going to survive this.
Yeah.
Like, where are they going?
Right.
There's nowhere to go.
And what are they studying, by the way?
Some science? They're like some sort of science?
I don't know if they ever get into it. Like, the whole time we're seeing them, they're just playing ping pong and playing chess and drinking.
It was funny when Kurt Russell was playing chess. The voice was Adrienne Barbeau.
Was it?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
She was uncredited. I'm like, that's hilarious. And I'm like, okay. And they're always doesn't seem to be doing anything, but I guess they're getting ready for winter. So when they're getting ready for winter, do they not do as much as they would like the other seasons? That's the thing I don't know.
Maybe it was Saturday.
Yeah.
Maybe it took place on Saturday. That's their day off, right?
Yeah, but it immediately jumps in. Like, I mean, we get the alien ship. We don't know when this alien ship hits Earth.
So, question on that.
Yeah.
So the alien ship is wobbling as it hits Earth. So do you think that, well, actually that question did get answered for me a little later, but do you think, and it's the same question I would have in Alien, are the occupants of the spaceship the aliens that changed the thing? Or was the thing that got out actually something that was being carried in the ship, and that's why the ship was wobbling, that there was, Mayday, we're out of here. Same thing.
Huh.
So I was wondering.
No,
it's not a question that probably is answered out there somewhere. But
do you think when it crashed, you're talking about this humongous ship, and we know that the creature, the organism, the whatever you want to call it, the thing, is way off, not super far, but far enough that it's somehow got thrown out? Is there like a some sort of like button that you hit when, like a pilot? I gotta, it. I don't know, man.
Who knows?
I mean, and so
that's one question I always kind of had. Now it did get answered because skip forward to the end when you see that it's actually been building a spaceship.
I'm going to get to that.
I think
I have an issue with
that was kind of like he looks like he built a little mini flying saucer out of some lawnmower parts.
I'm like, that was the one thing. I mean, I'm like, that's not happening because his character, what was Wilford? That was Dr. Blair.
Yeah,
Dr. Blair.
We're all just gonna call him Wilford Brimley.
Yeah, Wilford Brimley. Is he still alive?
I don't think so.
That dude went out like Betty White went out last everyone.
Are we gonna be able to get through this without doing any diabetes jokes?
I know, right? I forgot about that. Oh my God. Yeah, out of everything that I love the movie, but the one thing I was like, really, like he grabbed parts from like a helicopter and some like what was the other thing it was like I forget what it was. Was
it the forklift? Not the forklift thing, or the backhoe thing?
Yeah, whatever the hell that was. He took parts off. So he basically took parts off at the same time he destroyed them so they couldn't go anywhere. That's the impression I got. And somehow built a smaller version of a UFO and that looked pretty good. And I was like, and he was only down there for what, a day?
Maybe. Sure. Maybe he can probably sprout as many arms as he needs to get anything done. Right.
Sure.
But maybe the idea was he was creating, some kind of he's creating some kind of a casket that he can go in. Because the other idea is that maybe it was just trying to go back to sleep.
So that when when the rescue team comes, that it couldn't. Yeah,
maybe.
Okay.
Maybe like my biggest thing is, what's your power source, bro? Like, what are you going to power the thing with? Are you trying to escape into space? Are you trying to escape to a more populated area? Maybe he was building a shell vessel and then was planning on heading back over to the other site to retrieve whatever power source they're using.
Possibly.
Am I thinking too hard about this?
Okay, but it was in like a cave.
Right.
How is it going to fly up? It was underneath maybe 10, 20 feet of snow and ice.
It's a spaceship, man.
I know, man.
But you're right. Like building the tiny little pod spaceship to get out was a little out there, but it's one of those things. It's totally forgivable. Like
it is.
It's only after a few of these that I start going, all right, I'm out. I'm outside the story. Yeah, I'm not in it anymore. This one didn't pull me out of the story. I'm like, oh, okay, what's that? Never mind.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm fixating on this UFO when this alien can basically copy or imitate someone and do a pretty damn good job of it. And that's the thing, man. Do they know I don't think they know they're a copy or an imitation of themselves, right? I'm sure when
I never thought of that.
It seems like the ones that are, they act normal or as normal as can be.
Yeah, so they do have enough awareness to be able to not just look like the person they're imitating, but also somewhat act like the person. Like they also are able to talk to each other, to the other humans.
Yeah.
Like it's not like you're just meeting this person. It's like, you know this person and you're, casually speaking with them. So again, these are all things we're just thinking too hard on.
Yeah. I don't know. I wonder, like, I mean, obviously you have the memories, right? So if you could, if you're to try to act normal, to essentially blend in, the memories are there. So you remember, I don't know, man. It's, I'm not
about
sure.
like memories, but maybe, you're pulling something out of the brain stem, some sort of consciousness
I
from
wonder.
the person enough to, to act somewhat like a human being. But
yeah. Well, we know. So Antarctica UFO crashes. We get this opening scene. We have the Norwegians in their helicopter, basically hunting down a husky, and they're taking shots at this thing to try to kill it. And at first, we don't know why. They end up over at the American. What is this? This is some sort of outpost.
Scientific research facility.
Base. Yeah, I think they call it Outpost 31. It's a 12-man research crew. And they land and they're terrible shots because they can't hit the damn dog. And they go to blow it up. And of course,
party foul.
Yeah, one of these the grenades? I don't know, man.
That's exactly why I never trust a Norwegian with a hand grenade when I'm around them. I don't trust Norwegians and hand grenades.
So it blows up the helicopter and it kills the guy, right? One of the Norwegians.
At least one of them, yeah.
Then the other one is speaking. What is the language of the
Norwegian?
Norwegian? I don't know. Is it? I'm not quite sure. But they're speaking some other language. They're taking shots, or he's taking shots at the dog. But it becomes this like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
And so the kind of captain of this research team, I think who is that? Is that Gary?
Yeah.
Gary, breaks the window, shoots the guy.
I love that old school, like smash the window, take your shot.
Take a shot.
You're in the cold, bro. Like,
I know, right? And so they're like, well, what the hell? And so the dog, the husky's there, kind of chilling amongst them, but then McGreedy, which is Kurt Russell's character, and I don't remember, is it Copper, Dr. Copper?
There's Dr. Copper.
And I think him and Kurt Russell go like, well, we got to figure out what's the story here.
Yeah, and like somebody got shot. The Norwegian actually hit one of the guys.
In the leg.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, what's, because I think there's some sort of dialogue says, well, they just recently got there. They couldn't have gone like a couple weeks earlier. They couldn't have gone mad this quick.
Yeah. And
so they fly over to, because McGreedy's the pilot. Helicopter pilot. They head over there, and basically this outpost is I don't know, torched, I guess, for a better word. It's set on fire. Yeah. They go into one of the rooms, and it looks like someone had committed suicide.
Yeah, everything is frozen over. Somebody looked like he had his neck slit.
Yeah, with like a straight razor. Then they go. I think they go down below, and this is where they see this big block of ice that looks like it has a big, chunk that something was in there.
Yeah. It looks like they had extracted something out of the ice.
And then they go outside where the fire was, and they see this, it looks like a person kind of, two heads are kind of morphed into
some sort of burnt corpse.
Something.
But it looks vaguely somewhat human, but also very much not human.
So. Yes. And they get that thing back and they dissect this thing. And I think this is when Wilford Brimley's character comes in, which is Dr. Blair. And he does an autopsy, and it has all the normal organs.
It's internal organs.
Yeah. So it has all the, And so they're trying to understand what the hell's happening here, man. And then I think they fly back, and isn't that this point
I think
where
they
they
did retrieve some of the research materials and tried to, like, I don't know if it was videotapes or binders and things like that. I think it was.
I think there was some video. I think
yeah.
there was some video footage, and I did read that. I think John Carpenter was like a cameo, and like that one of the
he was?
one of the researchers on the Norwegian team in the video footage is John Carpenter. Yeah, and so yeah, I mean, and so the. At what point they go back and they because I think in the video footage they see all of them standing around some circle.
They've been marking out something with stakes or poles, and they see them all standing around in that big circle, and so they know that they had found something out there.
Yes, and then I think they fly back out.
Yes,
and I don't remember. I know McCready was one. I think there was 3 of them, and then they go down. They basically see this humongous UFO.
Yeah.
I don't remember what they went inside. Didn't they? Did they go inside this thing? I know they go and see the hole, like that's off.
Yeah. And I think what I remember most from that is they had established that the ice around it, that it crashed at some point 100,000 years ago.
How did they figure that out? It just sounded good.
They're researchers in the Arctic, Dave. They're probably pulling ice samples like Dennis Quaid at the beginning of Day After Tomorrow. They're probably pulling those things out, trying to figure out how long we have before global warming kills everybody.
Can you analyze ice that way?
I think you can.
Is that right?
I don't know. I can't. I think smart people who do that can. Yeah, they pull ice samples, and the further down you go, they can date it and say the ice around this is this old. Which is incredible stuff.
That's pretty interesting. Okay, so 100,000 years this thing landed, and it's been whatever this thing is it's basically been hibernating. It's been frozen, and the Norwegians thought it out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Norwegians.
The Norwegians thought this out. And so we know that we'll eventually know, but what this thing, I keep saying the thing, but I don't know what else to call it. Is it an organism of some sort? Is it an alien? I don't know.
That's what they don't know. They're looking at something that is obviously that thing was destroyed mid metamorphosis. So you can see like the 2 heads. They're looking at it. They know it's not human, although it looks vaguely human.
Yeah.
Dr. Blair does the autopsy, which great story that, Wilford Brimley was actually the one doing it. And you can see all the other guys getting grossed out, but he's getting his hands dirty in there. And he says, the inside, we've got a normal set of internal organs, heart, lungs, kidneys, liver. And they don't know what the hell this thing is.
And so at what, I'm trying to think here. So at what point let me go through some of the characters, and I'm probably going to get some of these like confused. We know McCready is Kurt Russell and Dr. Blair is Wilford Brimley. Childs is played by Keith David.
Great Keith David.
Keith David's great. He's phenomenal, and people would remember him from They Live, which is another John Carpenter installment. Clark. And is it Knowles? Knowles? I don't know. Was Knowles the cook or what? I don't know what he was.
TK Carter. The only thing I ever saw him in, do you remember, was it Ski School or Ski Patrol that he was in? Do you remember those movies?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But yeah, Knowles is great. It's one of those guys that you remember from the 80s.
From the 80s, totally.
He's been in 80s movies. So.
Palmer, we got Dr. Copper, Norris. Gary was the one who shot the Norwegian. Fuchs. And Windows, which I just think is a weird ass name,
right?
But that's Thomas. I think it's Thomas Waits.
Thomas Waits, yeah.
He would be in my favorite movie, which was The Warriors. Yeah. But he had the privilege enough to get booted off by Walter Hill.
And Windows, I got these old photographs of my dad. I feel like I might have brought this up in a previous podcast. Yeah. So maybe I'm just seeing my dad in every movie I go in. Like Windows, my dad got a perm at some point in the 80s. I think he and my mom got matching perms. And Windows, in my head, looks exactly like my dad with a perm in the 1980s.
Well, I know Thomas Waits. I follow him on Instagram, and he still has the curly hair. It's just now it's just shorter and gray.
Yeah. It's an old guy now.
I think I had a perm.
My dad doesn't have the perm anymore.
He doesn't have the perm.
Yeah.
I think I had a friggin' perm in the 80s, dude. Oh my God. It wasn't like the perm you would think would be a perm. It was a cooler looking perm, if that's even possible. Like, are perms even cool? I don't know.
I think Justin Timberlake made him popular
cool,
in the early
yeah.
2000s. I was able to avoid that one. It wasn't for me.
So I think that's the list of.
And then you've also got Clark, Richard Mazur or Mauser. I don't know.
I
how
think
you
it's
say his last
Mauser.
name.
Wasn't he in One Day at a Time?
I'm not sure.
I think
I
he
just
was-
remember him as the dad and son-in-law. So Sean Austin's dad.
Oh shit!
Pretty sure.
I don't remember that movie.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But
I think he was in.
I saw a Pauly Shore movie or two in my day.
I did too. I think if I'm remembering my sitcoms,
And it wasn't Son-in-Law.
I think
It was Encino Man.
Encino
Sorry.
Man?
Yeah, Encino Man.
Encino Man was one with Brendan. Was that Brendan Fraser?
Fraser, yeah.
Yeah. I think he was in One Day at a Time with Valerie Bertinelli. I think shit.
Maybe.
I think for some reason I'm almost positive of that. I'm just trying to remember my sitcoms, man. And I know I watched One Day at a Time back in the day, and I swore he was like, he had a crush on the mother. Yeah, maybe look that up and see.
We're
but
looking it up right now.
Yeah. And some of these other guys we've seen along the way, right? Like Dr. Copper we've seen in stuff, Norris we've seen in stuff. I mean, a lot of these guys we've seen in stuff along the way, especially in the 80s. But it's a good group of guys.
Yeah.
I think the acting is solid in here. They're very convincing. And so the husky that is, they don't know this, but we get the idea that something's not right with this dog. Why the hell were they shooting at it? They end up putting it in the kennel with the other dogs.
Yeah, but I think for a while, it wasn't until somebody told, because Clark, that was his job, was he was the sled master or whatever. He was the
sled master.
Whenever they had, he
No,
was
I
the
know.
guy that handled the dogs.
He was the dog guy. Yeah.
He's not supposed to say master anymore, but he's the dog guy.
That's true.
But the dog was walking around and had free reign for a while,
for
right?
a
Because it
while.
wasn't until somebody that was playing cards said, "Hey, get this dog out of here," and so he finally put the dog in the kennel with the other dogs.
But wasn't there a scene and all we see is a shadow in one of the rooms that the dog goes in there.
Yeah.
And we don't know who it is. And so we're like, shit, but yeah, they eventually put the dog in with the other dogs. And then we get this transformation. Now this is the thing. And I keep saying the thing, but this is the thing. So we know that it can be transported through saliva or whatever else. I mean, there's probably several ways it can be transported. Was it turning into another dog inside of the kennel? What was the point of that?
I don't know.
I mean, look, it was cool.
I think it was the point of that was to just show us, the audience, a transformation.
Okay.
Hey, guys, guess what? This ain't a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah. Because, I mean, we know that it imitates or copies, and it needs time in order to do that. That was interrupted. But I was thinking, well, what is it copying? Is it just copying one of the dogs? But why
That's
didn't it
what
just
I
stay?
don't know.
Why wouldn't it just stay one of the other dogs? I don't know.
Was it, and does it need to touch you? Does it need to physically sample you like the T-1000 in Terminator 2?
Yeah.
I don't know. What was it turning into? We don't really
Is
know.
it possible maybe it was gonna infect other dogs? So then all of a sudden it's gone, it's gone haywire. Like it's, like none of these guys, I mean, they didn't stand a chance
I think
anyway.
that's as good a guess as any.
Maybe.
It was transforming, into whatever form it needs to. Because I always got the impression that it needed to, grab you with tentacles and touch you or consume you or eat you in some way.
Something.
But it looked like it was about ready to take all the other dogs.
Yeah. Well, we know they come in and they witness this shit, and then I think they flamethrower this thing, right?
Yeah.
But then in the meantime, doesn't one of them get up to the ceiling and get away? Like whatever it is, it
does go up toward the ceiling, and maybe in an attempt to escape. I don't know if it did get out.
I thought it did.
Or what?
Dude.
Like so much is happening in those particular scenes that I'm not keeping track of everything. Just a little piece of it break off and get out. Obviously, it was not contained. In that area that they flamed through it, and it was somewhere else too. So that wasn't the end.
No, and the thing, and then I think Dr. Blair, Wilford Brimley's character, he starts doing some calculating on his computer, right? And it says, so
he's the one that first proposed that whatever this is, it can imitate whatever it consumes or whatever
comes in contact with.
It's imitating things. So, and he was looking at, I think it was when he was doing the autopsy on whatever they burnt up, that, this isn't a dog. Whatever it is, it's not a dog.
Yeah.
So maybe this thing can actually imitate, things it comes in contact with, which means it could theoretically do a human too.
Exactly. And so he runs some sort of numbers that says that there's a 75% chance that it's...
Yeah, that was another part where I'm like, oh, they had this computer that's running all these simulations and running all these models. And
I was like, damn, that's pretty good. Yeah, 75%. I think it said if it gets out into whatever, the general population, the world, well, what did it say? It'll basically take over 27,000 hours it would take for it to consume the world.
Yeah, something like 3 years,
Is that what 27,000 hours is? I just wonder, man.
Don't
I don't
make
know.
me do math right now.
I know,
it's been a long day.
I know, right? So he gets this idea well, shit, this thing can't get out.
Yeah, he's the first one that really figures out. He's the one that gets on page one. He's the one that figures out, okay, there's a chance we're all going to be infected, that we can all be infected. And which, going back to him building the ship and destroying the helicopter and destroying the backhoe, I honestly thought, I didn't put together that maybe he's, stealing parts off it to build his spaceship. I thought he was the first one that actually figured out that nobody here can leave. We're all dead. Yeah. We're all done. I need to destroy the helicopter so no one can leave here. I need to destroy the backhoe so no one can get out of here. That's why he was destroying the computers with the axe. He was the one that figured out that none of us can leave. None of us, we're done. We're already dead.
Yeah, exactly. But so then at some point between then and later on, he comes across the thing and gets infected, because if he was this alien organism, he wouldn't have destroyed everything.
Yeah. Which I think at the point that they remove him and they put him in the shack outside. Yeah. I'm confident that when he has the conversation with McCready and says, watch Clark and watch him close. Because actually before that, he's having a conversation with Clark and he's saying, you were alone with that dog last night for how long? And he's like, why are you looking at me like that, Blair?
Yeah.
And so, he's suspicious of Clark at that point, that he could be.
I was too watching this. Yeah. I'm thinking, no, his ass totally is infected or whatever, man.
And they established later that he never got infected.
No, I know. I kind of felt bad a little bit, right?
Fuck that guy.
You didn't feel like anything when McCready shot him?
No, man, I'm a Kurt Russell fan, I'm rooting for Kurt Russell. So if you're going to try to ship Kurt Russell, you deserve a bullet to your forehead.
Because when he was trying to, he had a scalpel or something, was trying to get him. Yeah, I mean, we know Kurt Russell isn't dying. I mean, and he was great in this fucking thing, dude. I mean, seriously, what I loved about this is it, and I'm sure this was filmed on some stage somewhere in Los Angeles. It felt like they were in Antarctica, dude. His beard looked like it had snow and ice on it. Yeah, their breath, it felt.
Yeah, some of the stage, I think, what were they doing? I read that they had to, get their breath out. So they refrigerated the set, and then they were all drinking hot coffee in order to kind of make the breath come out a little more.
I mean, it feels real, man. And I was watching something, and it's probably on some special edition on how they did some of the scenes, when they're walking on the snow to that big cutout, the big kind of rectangle cutout. That was only a small section of snow, and the artist actually painted everything. Dude, that shit looked phenomenal. Yeah. Same with the matte painting. Same with the UFO at the beginning. dude, that looked great, man. And so, but, okay. So where we, okay. So, all right. So we get the 27,000 hours. The team decides to place the creature's remains in a storage room.
Yep.
And then, Fuchs, which is Fuchs like a doctor? What is he? I don't know what he is.
He's Fuchs the stoner guy?
No, I think the stoner is
Palmer. Palmer's the stoner guy.
I think Fuchs is kind of like maybe Dr. Blair's like, I don't know, assistant or something. That's
just
kind
another guy there. We
another,
don't get, like, we know that McCready's the helicopter pilot.
Yeah.
We know that Dr. Blair is kind of the head scientist, and we know that Copper is the doctor. Everybody else is just there as muscle. Like,
yeah,
we don't know what anybody's doing. So
no, not really.
We know that Childs is the guy who's supposed to run the flamethrower.
Yes,
right?
yes. That is true.
For what? What do you need the flamethrower for out there?
That is true. What do you have it's convenient to have it on hand.
I'm glad they have it.
Yeah.
It becomes an integral part of the plot.
I don't know. If something ices over, maybe you use it to.
It's a pretty aggressive thing for some defrosting, but
I don't know, man. I mean, I really don't know. So Fuchs and McCready have a conversation. Fuchs is going through his notes, and he reads that the organism cells are still alive and active in the burn remains, and so and that it possibly more than likely has imitated all these different types of life forms.
Yep.
So it's essentially, I mean, I don't think it can't like imitate a plant, but anything.
There's no plants out there anyway.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if, and again, there's no rats out there either, but I think anything that is breathing, like some sort of like the dog,
any
or
kind
a
of
cat,
organic material, organism.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it can imitate.
Yeah.
And it basically makes a copy of them. And so I'm trying to think where we're at here. So they go. So they go, and I think they go to the storage room.
Mm-hmm.
And Windows return. I'm trying to think who gets attacked here. Is it Bennings?
I think it might be because Windows leaves to go get the keys from Gary, and whoever's left in there, it's the redheaded guy.
It's the redheaded guy?
Yeah, because
Bennings was the one that got shot, right?
Yes, and Bennings is the one that got shot. It was Bennings that was in there.
So he's in there.
He's in there alone.
Okay, that's right, because Windows comes back in and he's on the chair, and
he's got the tentacles all around him. Yeah,
and then I think Bennings runs out to the snow, and then they all basically surround him, and you see those big long kind of because it takes time to imitate or copy the person, and when it's interrupted, it's obviously it's not done.
He wasn't done.
So he wasn't done, and he had like these weird hands, and
he does the scream, and it's like, never mind, like, how did he get those hands through the jacket to put the jacket on? It's like, you don't need all of that stuff. You don't need to ask those questions. Like, he has not yet transformed completely.
And then I think McCready throws the gasoline on him and sets him on fire.
Yep.
Burns him up. And so now I think they have taken Dr. Blair and they put him in that shack, right? Do they sedate him?
I don't know if it's at that point, but because
we know he breaks. I mean, we know at some point he breaks
down. He's trying to destroy the computers, and so they all have to go in there to try and calm him down. A couple of people have guns. I know Gary's got his gun.
Yeah.
But Blair, which it shows once he runs that simulation, he goes down to his desk and he pulls a 38 special out. So he knows. I think he understands at that point the full weight of the situation, that nobody, nobody's getting out of there alive.
And I mean, the fact that he's destroyed that sled thing or whatever the hell that thing is, the helicopter, he's destroyed any sort of way for them to communicate.
Yeah.
Like the survival now is, and that's the
he
the
doesn't
thing.
want any of the guys
yeah.
to come near him because he assumes everybody's infected.
Correct. And they, did they sedate him? I think they sedated him, right?
I think they might
And
have before they put him in the shack.
They stuck him out in the shack.
Which I think at that point when he's out in the shack, he is not the Thing yet.
I don't think he is either.
Yeah,
man.
because when he says to McCready, he says, "Watch Clark and watch him close."
Yeah.
I just don't think that's something that the Thing would say.
I don't think so either.
But
and
at some point, he does get.
He does. We don't know when it happened because there's a lot of unanswered things, which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
Like when, Fuchs disappears.
Yeah.
And then he's burned up somewhere. Well, what the fuck happened? Like who?
You don't need those answers. Like
Not
because
necessarily.
it allows you to empathize with the characters who also don't know what the fuck happened,
True. And so now inside of, and I think this is somewhere in the notes from Dr. Blair that basically the things, how do I say this? Like all of its, how do I don't know how to say it? All of it's, I guess I'm not gonna say tissue, but literally everything is alive.
Which I think like that each bit of it is its own living organism, which I honestly, that was McCready that came to that determination, but it was a little further down.
See, I thought it was in the notes that Dr. Blair had, and it was, and Fuchs had read this, that once this organism is essentially, attacked or feels attacked, it defends itself. And so, and that's where the whole blood test comes in, right?
Which I think what you're thinking of, not to correct you, but I think
please,
it was when he pulls somebody aside and he's saying, what he was saying was that was when he was revealing that the burnt up bodies, there's still living cells in there.
Okay.
And he's telling him that even though that thing is burnt up, it is still a living organism.
Still living. So that's where McCready puts.
Yes, that's where they go back and they see that, was it Bennings that, they go back to get Bennings. But at some point they're all outside and they're realizing that they can't let anybody out of their sight and they need to team up and stuff. But I think it's right after that, at some point right after that, that McCready realizes that he left his shack light on, or am I too far ahead?
I think I'm trying to yes, I think it, oh God, no, dude, you might be around that time where I don't know if they were I think they were trying to find somebody, right? I think it was McCready, I think it was Knowles, and I think it was one other guy, and they were
McCready and Knowles went to go investigate his shack
because he said, "Hey, I was in there a couple days ago. I turned the light off.
Turned the light off last night when I left." And that is when, because I know that it's McCready that comes to the conclusion that every little bit of it is a living organism that's going to try to defend itself, and that's when he makes has the idea of burning the blood. But before that is when they actually propose that maybe we can test the blood. We have blood stores.
Yeah.
So maybe we can test the blood. And that's when they go to find out that the blood storage has been sabotaged.
Correct. And again, we're not sure who it is.
And we never really find out who it is, do we?
We don't. They try to narrow down, well, who had a key, who would have done it. And no, we don't know. And this is where that, the paranoia and the distrust is really coming to, the height here. It's just that it's that whole fear of I can't trust anyone. I don't know who's what anymore.
And while they're outside, that's when Knowles finds the shredded shirt or jacket that says McCready on it. And so when they're trying to walk back with the line to help them back, he cuts McCready loose, comes inside, and then they're saying he's out there. I left him out there, but I found a burnt up or a torn up shirt with his name on it. So I think McCready's a thing.
Yeah, and we don't know. I mean, it's possible, but it's also possible whoever the thing is could have cut that up and planted it so it looks like McCready is. Yeah. Because we know. I mean, look, we know Kurt Russell's the star of the movie, but his character is he's a strong character. He takes command. People look. I think they respect him. And so if if you have a thing or a couple of these organisms that are trying to get rid of this, the alpha, I'm going to try to,
And so we know at that point too, while Kurt Russell is banging on the door trying to get in, and all the guys are sitting outside and they're saying, "Don't let him in." And, and Palmer's saying, "Come on, let him in, let him in."
Yeah.
And we know at that point, right, Palmer is a thing. Looking back,
well, we don't know. We're gonna know in a little bit, but
and the guy's saying, "Why do you want him in so bad?" And he's saying, "Because he's close. He's here."
Yeah. I think it was Mac, Knowles, and Windows who went.
Yeah.
Windows is still weird to me. You know what's weird, and this is totally dorky, but you got Mac and you got Windows. Do you kind of get the the whole computer versus Mac versus Windows? I don't know.
I never.
It's so stupid. I'm just looking at my notes going, that is kind of funny.
I never made that connection.
Have you ever met anyone with the last or a name of Windows? Where the hell did that come from?
Who knows? It's just, it could be, a nickname that they gave him. I'm sure that's not his.
You don't think that's his?
I mean, maybe. I always assumed it was a nickname, and then I assumed it was because of his dark glasses that he wears all the time. That was the connection I made without thinking about it.
Sure,
I
guess
never
that's
really
possible.
gave it much thought.
Yeah, he always wore those sunglasses. But, there's no sun. Huh. Anyways, well, so Fuchs, they end up finding Fuchs burned, right? But we don't know, did someone kill him? Did he commit suicide? Because he kind of understands what's happening here.
Yeah. Maybe,
and so
it's just another dead body in a horror movie, man.
It's just another dead body. Yeah. And so they decide, okay, let's do this blood serum test or whatever you want to call it. The idea here is, look, we're going to take everyone's blood and and this is McCready's character.
But I think an important thing happens before that.
So
too,
tell me.
Because while McCready's outside banging to try to get in, who is it? Is it Dennings that has the heart attack?
No, that is Norris.
Norris. So Norris is having a heart attack, and so he comes in, they have to take him in, and that's when Copper starts working on him.
Right.
Because it's not until he sees the pieces of the thing that was, Norris, sprout legs and walk away that McCready thinks that, okay, each little piece of this thing is its own independent organism. And that is what gives McCready the idea to test the blood.
That's true. And that's one of the most iconic shots in this, in the thing is he's trying to bring him back with the paddles, right?
Yeah, with the defibrillator.
Defibrillator, yeah. And he does it a couple times and then he hits it for maybe the third time. Yeah. And literally the dude's chest opens up.
With teeth.
Basically rips his arms off and immediately turns into this cool ass creature. It's this
head sprouts up and like really
fast
off the table and then sprouts legs and
they hit it. I think McCready hits it with it's either McCready hits it with the flamethrower or maybe Childs does. Do you remember?
I think McCready,
because I think McCready has the flamethrower at this point, right?
I don't know if he has it or if he's still holding the dynamite.
No, but he had the dynamite with the flamethrower because the idea
That's right. He did.
He's like, so I think he hits it. Then the damn thing. Yeah, this is, and again, another
gets
iconic
hit with the flamethrower.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
The head basically detaches, comes down, sprouts legs like a spider and starts rolling off. And they turn and see this thing. What is what Palmer says? Are you fucking,
you gotta be fucking kidding me.
And I still would like to know how that effect was done.
I was looking at something. I was on YouTube, and there is a really good story behind how that particular effect was done. Like it involved finding somebody who was missing his arms. And
I did read that. Yes. When I'm talking. Yes. You are right. I think I watched something where it said they found a guy that didn't have arms. He had lost it in an accident. They created these like gelatin arms, and then that's how, and then when it goes, and literally when it goes into, it's like a machine that is ripping these things off. I'm thinking more so of the spine. How the hell does this head? So it comes down, it detaches, and then it sprouts these legs, these spider legs, and I'm like, and I'm sure it's probably easily explained, but maybe I don't want to know. Maybe I don't want to know. Maybe it's something
that's not done in movies anymore. We're talking about like problem solving on a level that is these days. It's just like, go have the nerds with their computers do it.
Yeah.
And these guys were working with real like live material and had to figure out how to create that effect, analog,
And I maybe you had heard this too, that Rob Bottin spent literally a year he cooped up inside of this room, maybe like in a studio for a year, basically 7 days a week, working on all the practical effects. By the time it was done, they said they had to send him to the hospital because he had pneumonia and exhaustion.
Wow.
A year, damn. Like, dude, 7 days a week. And I'm sure he had a couple breaks here and there, but damn, like, I don't know, man. And nowadays they just computer, they do. Yeah.
Honestly,
really
I think it's going to come back. I hope so. I think it's going to come back. I think we're kind of circling back because we all know that there's just something about none of us on a real conscious level are actually fooled by CGI. The most beautiful CGI that you see done, you can just tell by the movement that it triggers something in my subconscious that tells me it's not as cool as something that looks ridiculous, which this scene is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
It looks ridiculous, but at the same time, because it's there, like they're reacting to a thing that is in front of them, it just holds up for me. You get a different reaction. You get a visceral, good gut reaction from seeing that. You really do. And I know some stuff these days just can't be done with practical. I understand, like, especially with the green screen stuff. Like, I get it, I'm just sick of seeing blood that is CGI. I mean, I hate CGI blood. Like, you could have like a decent movie, cool story, and I'm aboard, and then all of a sudden you CGI blood, and I'm like, oh, you've kind of like lost me a bit. And it's like I have a different feeling for the movie, and it's like, oh, okay, So the actors are too pretty to get messy. Is that it? That's another thing too. Actually, one thing that I really appreciate about this movie is it me, or do they would never like put Wilford Brimley in a movie today? Like, he's an old guy, he's overweight, he's not good looking, and none of these guys, with the exception of pretty boy Kurt Russell, are particularly good looking. Like, they look like men who would really be there doing that. True. So these days I feel like they have to use people that are just everybody seems too clean these days, too good looking. Like, I don't know. I know, I agree. But I appreciate the fact that they put regular looking dudes. All of the characters are believable in this. All of them. And like you said, we've gone to see them in all kinds of other stuff, but it feels, it feels real. It feels like these guys could be at an outpost in the middle of Antarctica and they're doing research and whatever else. And so they just bad luck just happened to come their way with this, with this thing. And so we know, so Dr. Copper gets the arms ripped out. Norris is so basically Copper and Copper and Norris basically get they get torched, right? Yeah. And so then MacReady gets back to the test. But in the meantime, didn't he tied up? Yeah, because he thought Gary and he thought I think Clark, because of their, who knows, man, maybe the way they're acting, the close contact, whatever. I think at that point he doesn't believe anybody. He thinks anybody could be the thing. So that's where he gets the speech, I know I'm not a thing, or whatever. Yeah. Well, no, I think he says something about, I know I'm human. Yeah. Something like that. I'm human. Yeah. And so they do the blood test. So they I think they take a scalpel, they cut, they get enough blood and they put it in a little plastic pan. And the idea is here, he's going to take an exposed wire and he's going to heat it up with the flamethrower.
and he's gonna dip it in and see what, because if it is the thing, we know it's gonna try to protect itself.
He has theorized that there will be some kind of a reaction.
Correct. And so I think he goes through, and I don't know the
he does
sequence.
himself first, right?
He doesn't do himself first. I think he does either Childs or Windows first.
I think he does Windows first, because I know Windows is the one that has to walk over and cut everybody, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and then I think he does Childs, and then he does himself. He goes, I already, the answer, something like this. I already know the answer to this, but here, boom. And it's nothing. I think he gets to Palmer. Yeah. I think he gets to Palmer. And this is where,
And that's where it shows Palmer and you see Palmer just kind of looking down. And there's definitely, I think they were telling us that Palmer was going to be the guy before they tell us. But at the same time, McCready is doing it very casually and quickly, and that's what gives you the great reaction of why it becomes such a surprise when the blood jumps out of the petri dish.
Yeah. And then, of course, Palmer starts to,
convulse.
Convulse and transform into some sort of, thing, I guess. And doesn't the head split open and it's got like a mouth and this is where it like comes down onto Windows and basically almost trying to eat him. And then it's
and McCready's trying to torch him, but he can't get the gas out of the flamethrower. The flamethrower's malfunctioning.
Yeah. What a surprise.
From there, hilarity ensues. Like it's pandemonium.
And eventually gets this thing going, and I think he torches Palmer and Windows, because Windows has now been infected.
Does he get Gary too? Because I know Gary was right next to him.
Gary is no. So Gary's still tied up with the rope.
Yeah.
And he's like, he eventually says, he goes, can you, I forget what the line is, but can you get me the hell, untie me, cause it's like, he can't know where to go. He was tied in the chair and this shit is happening to him, dude. Oh shit. But I not a lot of people are left here at this point, right? We know Dr. Blair, which is Wilford Brimley, is in that shack. Yeah. So we got Childs. Clark is now gone.
Clark
got shot by Kurt Russell.
We skipped him because he was, he tried to, we already talked about that.
But
he's gone before this.
I think, so Palmer's now gone.
And
Dr.
they tested
Topper,
his blood and that was when Childs makes the comment. Yeah. So you
killed an innocent,
you killed a human. That makes you a murderer.
And Fuchs is dead. Windows is dead. Gary's still alive. Where's Knowles at this point? Where did Knowles get it?
Knowles might have been one of the first tests, because wasn't Knowles helping?
Maybe
to
he
tie
was.
him up?
Maybe. So when did Knowles get it though? I don't remember when Knowles got it.
I don't either.
Shit. That sucks getting old, man. Yeah. I don't remember when Knowles got it. Damn, when did Knowles get it? That irritates me now. So hold on. To be infected. Let's see. I'm just going through some of my notes to see if I wrote it down here. Oh, hold on. No. Does Knowles go down to where the shack is? Because we know McCready goes. We know Gary goes. And is it, I don't think it's Childs. I think it's Knowles, dude. I think Knowles gets it down below when they find the UFO. So they go to check on Blair the doors open. And I think Knowles.
Does it happen off screen?
It does. Okay. It does. That's why we can't remember. Because they see that Blair's been building the small UFO. And then there's an opening in the ground. They go down below. And then that's where the UFO is. And then Knowles sees Blair. He goes over. It's like, really? This is the shit that bothers me, man. It's like in all of these movies, they always break up. They never stay together.
Right.
And it just, and I understand it's, especially in the 80s, it's an 80s trope, but damn, stay together. Dude, I am not leaving the side of people. I'm staying.
It has to happen in these movies because you can't have everything happening in one room with everybody there. You have to split up. Like,
I know,
that's
but it's still,
how
I know,
all
so
of this goes
pisses me
down.
off,
There's
though.
no way around it. It sucks. We know it's a bad choice. But at the same time, when you're in a situation and you need to go get something or something needs to be checked, you can't have the entire group moving as one the
Yeah.
whole time.
I know.
But
I'm just telling you what I would do. I'm not leaving. Look, us in numbers, we're going to have a better chance than me solo.
I think I would be more in Blair's book, where it's just like, hey, listen, none of us are getting out of here alive. I'm probably the one who would resign myself to be like, all right, fuck it, let's get drunk. That's it.
So Knowles dies off screen. Gary gets this part was uncomfortable for me. He gets that hand where Blair puts the hand and is digging into his face. Like, yeah, I don't like shit like that. That was a little uncomfortable for me.
It's a great scene, though.
It's a great scene, though. It's a cool practical effect. But he dies, and of course, McCready's like, "Where are you guys at?" And then this big monster thing comes out of the ground.
Yeah.
And then because the idea was he was going to wire this up with dynamite and just blow everything up.
That's the plan.
You know?
They're blowing the whole thing up.
And in the meantime, weren't they throwing like, weren't they basically blowing up the camp with a lot of heat? I think they were, did they have like Molotov cocktails or something? Like
At
they were
some point,
blowing shit
maybe.
up.
I mean, I know they were setting charges. They were setting explosives.
And because I think they reserved the fact that, look, we're not surviving this.
Yeah.
We
need to blow up the whole camp.
Well, the power's out, right? So there's no heat.
Right.
I don't know what in Antarctica, I don't know what it gets to, minus something.
Cold enough to kill you, I think.
Right. So no power, no generator. Yeah, we're not surviving this. So, and so he rigs the explosives to blow this thing up. And I think he does, right? He throws the dynamite.
Yep.
And it blows it up.
Blows up the new little spaceship.
Yeah, the new little spaceship.
Blair's little convertible.
Yeah, that thing looked pretty good.
That was a hell of a throw, by the way. Like he threw it down there, bounced right in. It was a great throw.
It did.
I would expect nothing less from McCready.
Yeah. And then, so really, we don't know what happened to Childs, because Childs was supposed to go do whatever the task they assigned to him.
He got
I don't
separated
remember.
from somebody, and somebody's dead. And so at this point, the station has blown up. Kurt Russell's the sole survivor that we know of.
Sole survivor. And I think he heads back to whatever's left of that, maybe his shack.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell.
He's just leaning up against some rubble.
He is,
with
man.
a bottle of scotch.
Yeah. What was it? J and no,
maybe J and B.
J and B. I think it was J and B. And
the
then
good stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff. And then Childs rolls on up. We don't know. This is the thing. We don't know if Childs.
That's why it's such a great ending.
It is a great ending because we don't know. We
have that whole theory that, so they sit there and they both have kind of come to terms that neither of them are getting out of there.
Correct. Yeah.
They both have come to terms with there's no way of knowing if the other sole survivor has been assimilated. And just like, whatever, let's get drunk.
Let's get drunk.
And so McCready hands him the bottle. And there's a theory that's going around out there that what McCready had actually done was filled the bottle with gasoline. Huh. And so he offers Childs a drink, which I don't know if this is true, but I like the idea.
Really? You heard this?
And he offers Childs a drink, and Childs takes a drink. And because he doesn't react and say it's gasoline, now McCready knows that he's a thing.
Oh, really?
That's a nice little story.
Sure.
That's what happens when you have a movie that just goes on long enough. You can only watch it so many times. You can only do so much that nerds, and I'm one of them, start making up little theories and adding their own backstory to things. But I think it would have been interesting if it had kind of cued that if you had seen McCready do that, it would have been, would have tied the story up in a nice little bow. But at the same time, I like movies that end, super ambiguous. Both of them are dead. The only thing that we need to know now is the thing going to get out? Does the thing survive?
Correct. Because we know the weather's going to consume them.
Yeah, they'll be dead by the morning.
Easily by the morning. And so we don't know. And I love the ending. I'm cool with it. That's
it's
interesting.
not a happy ending. It's a downer.
It is.
Which is why I thought it would have done so much better in the hopeless 1970s. I feel like this is still very much a 1970s film.
You think so, huh?
Yeah, it's not. I don't look at it as like an 80s film. I don't look at its counterpart being Blade Runner and E.T. I look at it as being more of the movie that would have been released the same year as Taxi Driver,
Yeah, I get you. Yeah. And maybe it was just a timing. I really think it was a timing thing. It's trying to compete with E.T., which was just a humongous movie at the time.
I'm sure there was a recession going on. Like people are bummed. You don't need to go to the movies to be more bummed,
Yeah. I mean, and it is. It's a. I don't know. Like, I mean, we've seen we watch horror movies, right? And in ones that are like I would say like Hereditary or even The Dark and the Wicked. Those are very just oh my god, it's just a punch to the gut. And I don't feel like this way. Look, it's sad what happens, and it's no one survives, but I don't feel that way. I don't feel the same way as I would with like say Hereditary or The Dark and the Wicked.
Yeah.
First of all, it's two very different movies.
Yeah, for sure.
But we feel again like the isolation and the dread and the paranoia and all that stuff. But I don't know. I don't feel.
I feel like too, but also those movies have come out, in the last few years. And if there's one thing that I would say about the past 10 years, with the exception of, not counting like 2008, 2009, those were tough years.
Yeah.
But I think we as a whole have been living pretty fat the last 10 years.
You're right.
It's been good times. So we can watch a movie that's a complete bummer and be shaken by it and then go back out to life and having it be relatively nice out, relatively okay. I kind of think that's coming to an end pretty soon here. I think we're about to hit some lean times probably. So if you're watching a movie that has a sad, like not sad, but a hopeless ending, a bummer of an ending, and then you got to get up and go out into the world and you're unemployed, because you got laid off. You're not going to react the same way to it.
True.
That's probably a big part of what I'm saying. But with the times, nobody wants to see crap, hopeless movies when life is actually hopeless outside the movie. So
it's true.
I think that the recession, the AIDS scare, and the fact that there was just such a more upbeat, happy movie to see, people are like, no, I don't need this. I'm going to go see E.T.
Yeah. And I was probably one of those. I think I don't think I saw The Thing when it came out.
Yeah, I didn't see it until I was much older.
82, I would have been 10 or 11.
Yeah, I was 5.
Yeah, so I would have saw it later on, and I think I did see E.T. when it came out, and I'm pretty sure I cried at the end. But I mean that's the thing, man. I mean it still holds up. Look, I mean you could say some of the practical effects are dated, but okay, that's if you want to get nitpicky. We've established they're phenomenal.
And I don't think they're dated. I think like we talked about the same thing we said is that it's ridiculous. It looks ridiculous, but it's still a thing in a room that's eating a guy's hands. It still looks disgusting. It still looks like something you don't want to go anywhere near.
No, man. I mean, just the nastiness and the wetness and the gooey and all of it, man. It looks phenomenal, man. And I applaud Rob Bottin for damn, dude. I mean, he killed that thing. The Thing. No pun intended. Anything else? I did want to talk just very briefly about the music. I didn't know that Carpenter didn't compose the music for this. It sounds like John Carpenter's music.
I always assumed that he did. I assume he does on any Carpenter movie that I see.
That's what I thought too. And it was, I'm gonna hopefully I don't butcher his name. Ennio Morricone?
Sounds Italian.
And Ennio Morricone. I'm probably saying that wrong. What's funny is it sounds like Carpenter, and I'm sure Carpenter probably had a little bit of a say. People shit all over this music. Now, I have a point. I thought the music was fantastic. Set the tone.
Yeah.
It's that, like I was saying, it it immediately feels like nothing good is going to come of this. Like it's inevitable that there's going to be tragedy and no one's going to survive.
I think it does its job.
It does its job. What's funny is they crap on this music, right? Then in 2015, when Quentin Tarantino was doing The Hateful Eight, the unused music for the thing was used in The Hateful Eight.
Really?
And it won an Oscar. So tell me how in 1982 people shit all over this music. And then however many years later, the unused music wins an Oscar.
Listen,
really, fucking people? I mean,
in 1982, people shit all over the film as a whole. And now it's one of the greatest sci-fi horror movies of all time. So again, it goes back to context. You know, you put that movie in that soundtrack in the context of the film at the time, and it was rejected. The whole movie was rejected by society as a whole, but you recontextualize the music in a different setting and it can be brilliant.
Yeah. I thought it was brilliant anyways, but
nothing's objective. This is all subjective.
It is. So. I just wanted to bitch for a second. I just was like, really? How does it? Anyways, I guess that's it, man.
But yeah, I didn't have any strong feelings about the soundtrack. I thought it did its job.
I thought it did too. Like it worked for me.
Yeah.
I guess that's it, man. Really before we call it quits, you want to talk about the band at all?
Oh, sure. Hey, yeah. By the way, I'm in a band called Lesser Sons. Everybody check us out on YouTube or Spotify. I don't know when this is actually going to air, but we've got a show at the Colonial Theater. And that is on February 18th with Black Crosses. So come check us out on February 18th at the Cafe Colonial.
Instagram, Lesser Sons Band.
Lesser Sons Band, Instagram.
And, Poindexter Jake.
Yeah, I don't.
I think your Instagram. I know
it might be Poindexter Jake.
I think it's Poindexter Jake on Instagram. But check. And
we also have a Facebook page, Lesser Sons
Band.
And
the EP is Welcome Home, right?
The EP, that's what we roughly call it. It doesn't have a name, but we've got a 5-song EP out on Spotify. And we are just getting started to record a new EP that hopefully will be out sometime this summer. Nice, man. Well, check them out. And thanks again for coming on out, man. It's always a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Everyone, like I said, we'll talk at you later. You listened all the way to the end. We appreciate that. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Ear for Fear Podcast, Twitter at Ear for Fear, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Ear for Fear Podcast. You can also check out our website, earforfear.com. There we list news and events. We're available on all the main platforms, so make sure you tell a friend. We hope you come back and get an earful.